welcome to the Stacking to Win It podcast. I'm Big Italy 42 here talking about NFL Week 2, some stacks to consider. And this article was written by our very own Zach. You can find him at Zach's Got Moxie on Twitter. And he wrote up some teams that he's targeting, so I'm going to go ahead and break those down for you. Obviously, he mentions here at the beginning that you're looking to target teams with high totals, and obviously this all seems simple to a lot of people, but some people, you may not know where to find that information. So looking at Vegas lines, checking out team totals, great way to see who Vegas is expecting to score a lot of points. And obviously another scenario being you want close games. A close game is going to give you more opportunity to score points, especially if your team is a small favorite or small underdog, whatever it may be. Starting off here, he mentions that the Eagles always seem to be a great offense to target, and that makes sense, and that game also happens to be the highest total in the week once again, and got to expect that many weeks they're going to be up there among the highest. So first team that he highlights here is the Saints against the Buccaneers. It's a Buccaneers team that was absolutely terrible last week. They allowed 4 touchdown passes to rookie Marcus Mariota in the first half, gave up 42 points in that game, and this is just a team that got absolutely shredded. Drew Brees, first week, put up decent numbers. It's a Saints offense that was 7th in most yards in week 1, 408 yards, 354 of those coming through the air, just 54 on the ground. But those numbers are also a little bit skewed because Mark Ingram was a big part of the passing game, as we saw. And C.J. Spiller now, possibly he plays. He's listed as questionable. You don't expect he has a huge role, so maybe not a guy that you put into your stack. But this is a really interesting stack where you can put Ingram, you can put Drew Brees, and couple other guys to consider. It's either Brandon Cooks or Brandon Coleman. Brandon Coleman, going to be obviously lower owned. He's also much cheaper. I think he's a fine option. Had 4 catches and a touchdown first week. And this is an offense that's expected to do a lot of damage. They're big favorites here in this one, 10 points. So getting Ingram there, especially with your team being a big favorite, should be the guy that's getting a lot of looks late in the game. Running out the clock, assuming that this game script goes as we expected. And Saints, as always, one of the top passing attacks in all of football, and the Titans allowed 13.1 yards per attempt in that first game we were mentioning there. Team total of 28.8. Lots of upside for this team. Going to see some pretty high ownership for Drew Brees. Other guys, that all remains to be seen. Guys like Mark Ingram, especially at his DraftKings price of $5,900. Absolute steal. So Saints going to be one of the top stacks this week. Next up, he throws out the Ravens against the Oakland Raiders. It's a Raiders team that got down to the Bengals quickly. They were down 33-0 before they scored, and now they've got Charles Woodson banged up. You've got a defense that just wasn't very good to begin with. Defensive line was a non-factor last week, and this, as you know, pretty good offensive line for the Baltimore Ravens. And Joe Flacco, really cheap on DraftKings, pretty cheap on FanDuel as well. So the interesting thing here is going to be getting guys like Flacco and Forsett, and then throwing in somebody else there with them, one of your wide receivers like a Steve Smith. He mentions here Max Williams, who's very cheap on both sites, near minimum salary on both. And this is a team that is going to be under the radar. They're not going to have much ownership. But as we've seen last year and in years past, in a good matchup, even without elite weapons, we've seen Joe Flacco put up big-time numbers quickly. So Joe Flacco, a guy to keep on your radar. And this is a Ravens team that doesn't have a particularly high total, and this was also an offense that was just absolutely terrible. Actually put up the least total yards of any team in week 1. So that alone, we've talked about overreactions and people looking at what happens week 1, making their assumptions for the rest of the season. This is what it is. I saw week 1. This is what's going to happen. That's not the case, and obviously Baltimore, very unlikely they put up 173 total yards in any game the rest of the season, and especially against Oakland, not going to see a whole lot of resistance there. So I like that call as a low-owned stack. Next up, it's crazy that this has become a value stack, but obviously with DeMarco Murray out of town, Des Bryant now injured, depending on how long he's out, doesn't matter. He's got a team total of 25.5 for the Dallas Cowboys. Tony Romo did his magic once again last week in the second half, fourth quarter especially, without Des Bryant. He relied on Jason Witten for the most part, but you're going to see guys like Tony Romo, Terrence Williams, Jason Witten all have higher ownership than you would have seen with guys like Des Bryant in there. Terrence Williams, really cheap on both sides. He's going to have really high ownership. Got to imagine Jason Witten, those that aren't playing Gronkowski wherever they can are going to be looking at Witten as the top value play, and rightfully so, But this is a very interesting stack. We saw Lance Dunbar, who's very, very cheap on both sides, have a huge, huge role in that offense last week. Caught almost 100 yards worth of catches, or had almost 100 yards in catches. And Dallas put up the 5th most yards of any team last week, 356 yards through the air, 80 on the ground. Scored 27 points, which was among the highest as well. This is certainly a team that's got big-time upside, and it won't cost you a lot. So you can go ahead and stack this team and get yourself some big names along with it, and maybe get both sides of this one as well. This is a 55-point total. Lots of points expected to be scored in this one. The Eagles allowed 8.8 yards per attempt to Matt Ryan and the Falcons, and obviously a lot of that there was Julio Jones, but Tony Romo does a great job of spreading the ball around, and they give up. This is an Eagles team that gave up over 100 yards on the ground as well, but there's still a good run offense. I mean, we saw a lot of volume. Tevin Coleman had 20 carries for 80 yards there. So Joseph Randle, definitely a guy that has got some potential here, and this one as well. Contrarian stack, last one he's got listed here. It's the Dolphins against the Jaguars. Team total just under 24 here. And this is another team that really struggled in week 1, 256 total yards. They did get the win 17-10 over the Redskins, but one of their touchdowns was a punt return. And I think a lot of people, it's going to be another one of those classic cases of overreaction where people see Miami struggling in week 1. They're going away from Tannehill. You're going away from Jarvis Landry, who did score, but it was that punt return that I mentioned. You can roster all these guys for really cheap. Lamar Miller is a guy. He put up a ton of runs, or a ton of points as well. A lot of yardage. Big volume guy there. And the Jaguars give up 370 yards per game in week 1. And this is a Jacksonville team that, went up against a bad offense, essentially, in Carolina week 1. And Carolina, they didn't have a ton of success necessarily. 263 yards, over 100 on the ground, 150 through the air. But that was a game where Carolina just kind of ran the clock. They got up, and they just did what they had to do to lock that game up. And this Dolphins offense much more explosive than the weaponless Carolina offense. So I'm expecting Lamar Miller to have a big game here, and Tannehill, Landry going to be a nice package there as well. Throw in a guy like Rashard Matthews or Jordan Cameron as some low-owned guys with some upside. We saw Rashard Matthews catch a touchdown pass last week. So Dolphins, the contrarian stack of the week, according to Zach. And find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's going to wrap things up for this one. So check out all the rest of our great content, covering pretty much everything and all the sports going on right now. Lots of great content to help you win at DFS this week.